What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Day 29. We are almost done with this challenge. And I know it's been unbelievable for me. The things that I've seen happen, the stories that I've heard from you guys, how you've changed, how you've grown, have just been really, really amazing, really encouraging. A lot of you have taken this really seriously. And, um, the things that we've let go of, the things that we've grown in, are going to stick with us for the rest of our lives and into eternity. I mean, um, this has been really defining. I know for myself, as well as all of you, most of you. I mean, I've heard from so many of you. So, way to go, guys. So, I mean, we have one more day, um, and there's a lot of work to do. I mean, there's the whole point of this is to go out. The whole point of this is to take a look at ourselves, see God for who He is, and then go do what we're supposed to do. Go out and be on mission and share the gospel and make disciples. So our work is not, it's just beginning, you know. But for the purposes of this challenge, we are in the final 2 days here. And I just want to encourage you guys to, as this winds up, as this winds down, and as we close this up, to take what you've learned and engage it. Don't forget it. Continue to do the things that we've talked about in this challenge. Make them a discipline. You know, just every day be looking at yourself and let the effects of this challenge continue to change you even as we go forward. Today we're talking about spending your time in another context. Um, we like to be comfortable as people. It's part of our nature. We like to, especially in our American culture, we need to have things buttoned down. We need to have our paper at the end of the driveway, or our day's ruined. We need, like we're so used to routine, and we're so used to having things like orienting our lives around this idea of comfort and contentment and security. And in and of themselves, in and of themselves, these things aren't bad. Just like a lot of things. I couldn't really talk just now. So that was maybe uncomfortable for you. It was a little uncomfortable for me there for a second because I didn't know what was happening. I couldn't say the words. But no, we spent so much of our days daydreaming about how can my life be more comfortable and content and predictable and safe. And the reality is, if we take the gospel seriously, none of those things are guaranteed to us. And in fact, we are probably going to live lives that are incredibly uncomfortable at times, if not overall. And one of the things we're talking about today is spending your time in a different context. And what that means is, yesterday we talked about giving your money, and that's all well and good, and it's something that we need to do. It keeps us healthy, it keeps us fresh, it keeps us, relying in faith on God to return what He's given to us. But something that's even more challenging is to actually be. Again, in David Platt's book, he says something here. If we're going to accomplish the global purpose of God, it will not be primarily through giving our money, as important as that is. It will happen primarily through giving ourselves. This is what the gospel represents, and it's what the gospel requires, which is really tough to hear, because it's very easy to think, okay, I'll give some money and somebody else is going to go do it. But if we all think that somebody else is going to go do something, nobody's going to do it because somebody else is going to be doing it, or so we think. One of the most life-changing things that ever happened to me was I went on a trip to Brazil, a mission trip to Brazil. We went on a 2 week trip, and this is what he's talking about: spending your time in a different context. We went on a trip, and I literally saw people who had lived in a garbage dump. They were born in a garbage dump, and they were going to die in a garbage dump, and in between they had to live in that garbage dump, or they chose to live in that garbage dump every single day. 10-year-old kids who looked like they were 30 just because their life had been so hard. And, you know, it was one of the most eye-opening, heart-wrenching, life-changing things I've ever been through. You lose a lot of your entitlement. You lose a lot of your attitude when you see that kind of reality. Um, it makes you grateful for what you have. And, you know, anytime you change your context, like think about when you take a trip somewhere. You know, you change your context, you see different people, you have different conversations, you meet people from different parts of the state or the country or the world, you taste different foods. You know, your whole experience is changing you because you're having different stimuli. You're having you know, you're a different part of the world is invading you, and that changes you somehow. Some people embrace this, some people run from it. But if we want to call ourselves followers of Christ, we have to be prepared to go into any context that He sends us into. Chances are it's not going to be something that we're comfortable with. It's going to be something that He's equipped us to be in, but chances are it's not going to be extremely comfortable. God never promises us comfort, but He does promise to change the world through us if we let Him. So today I want you to begin thinking about how you're going to spend your time in a different context. Does that mean you're going to take a missions trip? Are you going to go down to the local soup kitchen and start volunteering? Are you going to go sit with some elderly people at an old folks home? What are you going to do? How are you going to change your circumstances? How are you going to spend your time in a different reality, in a different paradigm? And then you need to do it within this year. You need to either make it a discipline or take the active steps to go do something, and let it change you. And as you do what you're doing, feel how you're being changed. Really soak up that experience, because God is he's preparing us and He's equipping us to go out into the world. Jesus says, "Go into all the world. Go into all the world and make disciples." Go into all the world and share the gospel. Share my story is what He says. We can't do that sitting on our couch and think that we're living out the gospel. So that's the question for you today. How are you going to spend your life in a different context within the next year?